so let's continue for our discussion where we left in the previous module. So as I was telling you a few slides back, that we will I'll show you that what is the de facto choice of waste management. So we just had a summary in the previous towards the end of the previous module, like the different components, how the waste is managed, and so now look at what is actually happening on the ground. So and that's the global picture. So in this particular map, where you see this map, and I'll kind of go over this map, explain you all the details. On the top, as you can see, there are that's again the same hierarchy that we talked about earlier: disposal, energy recovery, recycle, reduce, and reuse. We want to do more and more reduce and reuse, but unfortunately that is happening less. And then on the after that, you see that all these being landfill is over here, recycle, reduce and reuse, some of the informal recycling, waste to energy plants, and all those different stuff is being talked about. So this map is it's slightly older, like 2-3 years old, but it's again things doesn't change overnight in any of these aspects anyway. So and it gives you a kind of a picture of even if the landfill has gone down by a few percentage points, but it's still, as you can see, that how the waste is being managed. So let's look at one by one. So let's start with India. Since we are in India right now, let's start with the India, how we have been doing in terms of the waste management. So in the Indian context, 91% of the waste that we produce goes to this landfill. When we say landfill in India, actually those are mostly unregulated dumps. There are few landfills, but most of them are unregulated dumps. So our 90% of the waste is being just dumped in the environment. So that's a big percentage. So and then we have some waste minimization plan. So here this 183 kg per year tends to tell you, based on the government's initiative in the waste minimization, this is how much is being reduced. Something whatever is given in the brackets kind of tells you that what is the proposed regulations will bring in terms of the reduction. Then we have in terms of recycling, you see this man with the cart. That means it's a mostly informal recycling. There is no much formal recycling going on. It's mostly informal recycling happening. And then we have one waste to energy plant operational and the other one, another one in pipeline. And this number is definitely old. As I told you like in the previous module as well, there is a push on having waste to energy plants in India. So right now we have more than at least 3 or 4 of the waste to energy plants which is operational, and then several are there which is under pipeline, and in the different levels of the pipeline. So maybe a good idea would be like maybe in a year or two from now to update this graph for a global picture, and then the number to see how the numbers changes. But as I said earlier, for most part it will be kind of in a similar range. So that's the India, and then most of the time we compare ourselves with China. So if you look at the Chinese part, and another thing I would, if you have noticed, these green, you see like a small like a several population that has been shown. That's these population data is proportional to the actual population. So these population figures, I should say, population sketch or population diagram is proportional to the population of that particular area. So this is it kind of shows you the population of India, which is 1.2 billion. Then it shows population of China over here around 1.3 billion. So if you look at the way the Chinese people are doing it, so again there is some waste minimization, some informal recycling. They had 100 waste to energy plant operational, and again this is a couple of years old. Right now it would be much more than that. So 100 waste to energy plants under operational, and then another 200 in pipeline. So they have lots of waste to energy plants being built. But even after that, nearly 80% of the garbage, 80% of the Chinese garbage is going to the landfill. So which some of them includes dumps as well. So that's how the China is performing in terms of the waste management. Then the best, so after seeing these two, if you look at the best example, which is of course the Western European countries, and they have been put all together as one with a population of around 330 million. So if you look at the Western European countries, only 30% goes to the landfill. But it's again, one way of looking at it is only 30% goes to the landfill. The other way of looking at it is still they have 30% going into the landfill, because Western European countries working on waste management system for almost 3-4 decades now. So even after working on it for 3 to 4 decades, they have the waste going to the landfill. So that's kind of tells us that landfills are going to stay. So if you are a environmental engineer, if you really want to make a career in this waste management sector, one of the key things that you need to understand and to learn is the landfill design. So if you know the landfill design, you will have some jobs for sure. And of course, the compost incinerator and all those things does come into picture, but landfill designs are also very, very important. And in fact, many people of Indian origin are working on in Middle East and other places where there are newer and newer landfills are being built up today. So that's one area where a lot of jobs are available, at least in near future. So in terms of 30% going to the landfill, 422 waste to energy plant in the Western European countries. Out of only 331 million population, which is nearly 1/4 of the Indian population, they have 422 waste to energy plants working and another 14 in the pipeline. So that's you can think about. But why have you, like when you look at those data, of course the question, as I said, as I keep on saying again and again, we should always think why it is that the Western European countries are building so many waste to energy plants. And the reason for that is although the population is 330 million, the area is also pretty small. And since the area is small, of the whole Western Europe, and so that's European Union or include. So that's kind of tells us that since the area is small, they cannot have the land for the landfill, so they are building waste to energy plant so that they can burn this garbage, reduce it to at least to 10% of the volume, and that rest 10% goes to the landfill. Some places like Netherlands, Denmark, even they recover many things out of those residual, and only 2 to 3% goes to the landfill. But so that's they have recycling programs. Around 43% of the garbage is recycled, 43% of the waste. And that does include all the kabadiwalas, this stuff that we do it. They do it in India. There is no kabadiwala in the Western world or the developed countries, and so they have a way. There is a recyclable process through the municipal solid waste collection system, and then there are some process in terms of the waste minimization. So that gives you an idea about how things are happening in European Union. And then since the Brexit has already happened, and for some reason this graph has UK separate, I don't know why, but maybe they foresee that Brexit is going to happen couple of like a year down the line. So in UK they have 49% landfill. Again, UK is struggling in terms of reducing the landfill. They had 14 waste to energy plant, another 80 in the pipeline, nearly 39% recycled, and some programs to reduce the waste. So that's how things are happening in UK. And similarly from UK, if you go to US, which is not that different, US has 86 waste to energy plants, and then they're building another 3, and 54% of the US waste goes to the landfill. So that's much even higher than UK. So 54% goes to the landfill. Why? Because again, lands are available. So since the land is available, landfill is much cheaper. So even from the Indian context, once this waste to energy plants are getting traction today, because of the land prices are pretty high, we don't have land to build a landfill. Then again there is a debate on that, like whether we need the land to build a landfill, or whether we need land to build those raceway courses, that Formula 1 raceway which happened which was built in Noida. I don't know. So, but it's that we can debate along that line. But land is a problem in a country of 1.2 billion, where so many population is out there. We have to feed our people. We cannot use up our cultural land. We do need to have some industry. So to build a landfill and it's landfill areas are huge. So there is always a land issue. So, but in US, the land issue is not that much problematic. So that leads to them being able to having the landfilling, although the landfilling is being discouraged in the United States as well. So it's around 54% of the waste going to the landfill. And if you go to like some other developing areas, for example in Mexico, nearly 100% landfilling, Brazil 100% landfilling, Africa 100% landfilling. So that's kind of gives you, so things in Brazil, Mexico, and in Africa seems to be even much worse than what ours is, but our situation is also not very good in terms of the waste management sector. 91% of the waste is just going to the dump sites, or among them few are engineered landfills. So that's actually cause of concern, because of all the heavy metals and other things present there, it can potentially leach. Things will get leached into the groundwater, and then it becomes a problem in terms of public health issues. So this particular map kind of gives you an idea of how the things are working. As you can see, landfills is still a predominant way of waste disposal. So having a good design of the landfill, having an understanding of the landfill design is always very, very helpful in this particular field. So now, if you look at this Europe a little bit more in detail, there was again, things gets driven out by the regulation. Since there are the policies in place which tries to drive things in a particular direction, so European Union does come up with certain guideline. They want to reduce the biodegradable waste going to the landfill by 25% in 2006, 50% in 2009, 65% in 2016. So it applies to all EU member countries, but unfortunately they could not really meet all these guidelines, and so it was revised. So 2006 target was revised for 2010, 50% target was revised for 2013, and 65% target is revised for 2020. So they have to work towards it. They have to keep this biodegradable waste away from the landfill. So when you're trying to keep it away from the landfill, you have to have some sort of compost plant or anaerobic digestive plant. So things are working in that area. So regulation does force people to do certain things which they would otherwise not do. So having a good regulation is always very, very helpful in terms of the waste management. So if you look at this, despite the landfill directive, there are vast differences in the waste diversion, including organic, between the EU countries. So as you go from left to right, you go actually what you're seeing is from the lowest GDP to the highest GDP per capita per capita. So as you go from lowest GDP to the highest GDP in this particular graph, you have that's your x-axis. X-axis is the name of the countries which for which the bars are, and then in the y-axis we have MSW amount per capita. So how much waste is being produced per capita per day, and the bars that you see over there, for each of the country we have two bar. One is the black bar, and the black bar is actually showing us it's a total amount of waste that is generated, and then next to the black bar is you see a bar which has multicolor, mostly three colors, and they have incineration, recycle, and composting number. If you have the red color is the incineration plant, that orange color is your recycle, and your blue color is the compost. So that's kind of how they are. And if you try to compare them on the left hand side, which is mostly Eastern European countries, you see that they don't have much diversion going on. When we say diversion means the amount of waste not going to the landfill. So that's the diversion. So Bulgaria, Latvia, to a certain extent Poland and Estonia, Czech Republic, we do see some I would say like a waste being diverted, but it's still they have to get that work done. And but if you as you make progress towards the Western European countries, as you go towards the richer country on the right, what you see is that more and more waste is being diverted. And some examples, for example, Germany or Denmark or Sweden, Netherlands, which is Austria. So those numbers on the right hand side, they are very, very close to achieving what is known as the zero waste. So that's it's very, very important. So that's most of these countries, they are sending very, very less amount of garbage in the landfill. So, but still they are sending garbage into the landfill. So that's the other. So that's what it kind of signifies. that even after working on this field for several years, we cannot really get rid of the landfill. We may not like it, it's unfortunate part of that, but landfills are going to stay for some time. So other graph of showing the same thing, like how, not the same, I should not say the same thing, but this graph is showing you the GDP, which is the US dollar per capita, and in the x-axis and the y-axis is showing you the waste that is produced, like the kg per capita per year. So if you look at this particular graph, our blue is the generation part and the red is the diversion part. Diversion means the amount of garbage which is not going to the landfill. So as you can see, as people are getting more and more wealthier, we see a tendency of producing more and more waste. As we become more and more wealthier, we tend to produce more and more waste, which you may have seen in your own life as well. And but at the same time, since these countries which have a highest GDP, like a US dollar per capita, they are relatively richer countries, so they also have developed the infrastructure in terms of diverting the waste away from the landfill. So you see kind of a correlation here, that more the waste, more the GDP per capita, more the waste being produced, more the GDP per capita, more and more waste gets diverted. More and more waste goes to some other So that's so in the next we'll look at why we should be even worried about this waste stream, like how long until it will be all gone. So far what we have seen in terms of the Europe part, in terms of the more is the GDP per capita, more the waste being produced. At the same time, more the GDP per capita, more the waste gets diverted as well. So next, why we should even worried about this waste management part. So we kind of, so far we have looked at how it is being managed, what is some of the good scenarios from the Western European countries. Now we'll look at how long until it's gone. So basically, why we need to even worried about this waste that is being produced. So the reason for that is the waste that is being produced, they are not biodegradable anymore. As you can see in this particular slide, there is the estimated decomposition rate of certain marine debris. That's more and more waste that is being produced. It stays in the environment for a long time. They don't decompose. They are staying in the environment for a like a certain, some of the stuff that you can see over here, the plastic bottles for 450 years, fishing lines for 600 years, plastic beverage holders for 400 years, even as simple as cigarette butts, they stay for 1 to 5 years, cotton shirts 2 to 5 months. So this waste that is being produced today, they don't degrade very readily. So when they don't degrade very readily, they stay in the environment. They get into our water, they get into our seas, and then oceans, and then they create problem in terms of the contamination. So that's why we need to kind of think about the managing the waste being more responsible way. And for that, what is happening today is we are moving towards what is known as the resource management. Earlier, we were thinking more in terms of the waste management. Waste management, as the name suggests, is mostly you are looking at the end of life. So you are more looking at towards the end. So waste, the product is being made, people are using it, and when they throw it away, that's where you are kind of looking at the end of life approach. So this is also known as what is known as the you have a bottom of the pipe approach, or like a pipe, it's in a pipeline process, you are looking at the end of pipe approach. But that's not where our discussion is leading us to. Nowadays we are focusing more on having a resource management rather than having the waste management. So what do we mean by resource management? So as you can see in this particular graph, you start from production, consumption, and end of life. Presently in the waste management, if you look at a waste engineer, you are mostly worried about in this portion where you are separate, collection, recycle, and others. But these days the focus is more on looking at things in totality. So you start from all the way from production to consumption and to end of life. So that's, you are looking at the whole things in a totality, where the people are moving from end of life approach to a more systems approach. So this is how this concept of systems approach and systems engineering and also industrial ecology, life cycle, and all these things have similar concepts, where we are trying to look things in a more holistic point of view. So that's where we are moving towards the resource management. And that's the concept of circular economy that you hear from time to time these days, which is the circular economy concept. And what is this concept of circular economy? Basically, you have a certain material used to make product. You use that product, goes into the disposal stream. You extract material out of that, and you again put it back into the economy. So that's the concept of your circular economy. So why do we care? Like how solid waste is regulated or managed? So far, kind of after giving you a good overview of what is like a waste, how it is managed, what are the different components. Now we'll try to kind of give you more like why it is important. Why do we really care of why the solid waste is how it is managed? Because it creates an environmental problem. As you can see in these two pictures over here, these two pictures happened in United States in 1970s. So as on the side of the road, as you can see on the left picture over here, on the side of the road, for certain industries, they just dump their like a waste drum filled after drums on the side of the highway on one particular night. So they had like a valley of, it's called like a drums of death, like a valley of lots of drums over there. And on the right hand side, you can, on a close up, you can see the waste which is just percolating into the ground. It's getting leaked into the ground. So the incidents like this lead to the formation of the solid waste management rules. So this was kind of some of those signature event. This event, as well as another event of Love Canal, which was where waste got dumped into in a subsurface. Then people made houses on top of that. People got sick. So if you have not watched Love Canal incident, you can go on YouTube and look at those Love Canal videos. There are several videos out there. So that's again one of the important event, unfortunate event, which led to solid waste regulation throughout the world. If you don't do it properly, you may have a problem of things catching fire, as you can see in this particular slide, where if the waste is not managed properly, it can catch fire, and it leads to catastrophe. So that's we will be producing waste. So it's like in terms of why do we care? Because the human being will keep on producing waste, but when the waste is being produced, it needs to be managed properly. Some of the waste are very nasty, which is the hazardous waste. We will not talk about hazardous waste in this particular course, maybe some other course, but but even the municipal solid waste these days are becoming, because of all the different types of heavy metals are being used, different pigments in the plastics, batteries, electronic waste. So all those are becoming a pretty nasty kind of waste mix that needs to be managed. And if you even some of those stuff in the household are could be flammable. For example, you have your nail polish remover, or you may have some used paint, or you may have some old stuff lying in the house, like within a aerosol can, and all those things can create some sort of trouble. So as you can see on this particular picture, if the waste is not being managed properly, that causes a lot of can cause a catastrophe and can lead to a lot of fire. So that's again another reason why we need to manage the waste properly. So that's it's again like a cause fire. Mostly these are hazardous waste. These are industrial waste. But again, as I said, our municipal solid waste things are also changing. Another scenario where you have waste just dumped on the site. Here, the picture, if you on the very end, you have some very nice water body, but the waste is being dumped along the slope, and gradually things will leach off, and the stormwater drain will take all these chemicals from here to this water body and creates a problem. So that issue is there. And in the older times, again, this picture kind of shows you that lead acid batteries. You see lots of batteries over there. These are the auto batteries, automotive batteries. These days, in most of the developed world, I think in the developing countries as well, when you go and rechange, like when you change your old batteries with the new batteries for your car, you have to give the old battery to the soap owner, because he has to kind of send that old battery away for recycling purposes. But in the older times, they were being just dumped, and these are lead acid batteries. So they have lead, they also have acid. So this is really nasty stuff. And if they are dumped on the side of the road, and if they get broken down, which it will eventually happen, and then it will lead to soil pollution, groundwater pollution, and surface water pollution as well. Sometimes garbage will catch fire, as you can see in this particular picture, and then that creates a lot of air pollution problems, where this dump is on fire and creating the air pollution issues. People living on top of the dump, that's another issues, where people are living there, and then they are trying to have their livelihood. And that's again, that's why I said earlier, it's not only a technical issue, it's not only a science issue. There are a lot of social issues associated with that as well. So that's which is people when they live on top of the landfill, it's their livelihood. You cannot just tell them to go away, because that's their way of making money. But when they live there, there is a lot of health issues associated with that. Again, this is another picture. This is from Macedonia, which is the Eastern European country. You see the fire on the side of the garbage on the side of the road, and fire on the garbage. So these things do happen even in other countries too. So not only in India. So again, the same country, different picture. Waste dumped on the side of the like a slope. On top, here is the road on top, and then you have the garbage catching on fire and creating air pollution problem. So again, the same picture from a different angle. So this is from Delhi. You see this nasty leachate being just on the toe of a landfill, and this landfill is unlined landfill, doesn't have a liner system. So this leachate has a very high chance of percolating into the groundwater, and of course it depends on how deep is the groundwater. You can say, fortunately, from this point of view, that Delhi groundwater is very deep, so it will take several years for it to leach there, and it may get, part of it will get remediated as well. But again, it can lead to the surface water problem, and you have a shallow aquifer, you have a tube well nearby, that can lead to those kind of issues as well. So you can see the leachate being along, there is no leachate management, so that creates a problem. Again, this is from the Delhi landfill. Another picture. Here you see one particular person just sitting there, and she is just trying to make some living out of the garbage. So she will go around from time to time and try to find out some recyclables, and which she can use to sell it off. Leachate, again another picture of this leachate. So these are some of these environmental issues associated with landfill. It's very close to a container yard place, so you can see that this is the container yard. They have a fencing, but from areas even the fencing has been broken down. So in terms of any of these, if there is a landslide kind of issues, things will go all the way over here and can create a problem. So you see animals in there, these pigs and other things just into the garbage. Not only the cow, like dogs. Again, the dogs will get a lot of skin disease. They're trying to consume the water, which is essentially leachate, so it will make them sick, and that's kind of a problematic for these people, especially. Let's say it creates a lot of skin problem and other stuff. And so you see dogs over there, you also see cows over there, and the cow is trying to eat a lot of whatever is the organics available in this garbage. So what happens many times that they are not only eating the organic, they are also eating plastics by mistake, and the plastics chokes their chokes their system, and many times they even have the health problem and even can lead to death. So we need to it's again of course cows getting into the landfill is very common. You see it from time to time. So we are in terms of as a country, we are a bit sensitive about cows, so we should be sensitive about their life, how they are living as well. So again, some other pictures are there, which I'll just show you quickly all those pictures, and then we'll wrap up. So it's this another picture of garbage you see where the cow, the animals getting exposed to it, people working on top of the landfill, trying to get the livelihood out, and trying to make some earning out of that. Again, you see some cows on top of the landfill. These are again Delhi pictures. These are all Delhi landfill pictures. and some of people trying to make living, try to get some recyclables. So that's it kind of tells you that these are some of the issues associated with like there is a in terms of the waste management. When we look at the waste management, it's not only the technical problem, it's not only the science related issues, it's also the management related issues, especially from a social issues as well. And it's common to pretty much many places in the world. Some of the developed countries have kind of gone over that, where you don't see these rag pickers and other people trying to go into the landfill and try to get some things out of it. But if you go to any developing countries, you see these issues are there, and so they have to be looked into how to make incorporate this informal sector into a formal sector, and that can pretty much done, especially from an Indian context. If you look at there are a lot of government policies now in terms of the Skill India or Startup India. So if we can give this a skill to these people, those who are working in a very informal way, in a very unsafe way at these landfill sites, if we can skill them and use these people in a material recycling facility, which where they can get the livelihood, they will try to recover material from the landfill, from the waste material at a material recycling facility before it goes to the landfill in a more scientific way, more controlled way, in an environmental friendly and a human health friendly way, and then they can make a living out of that as well. So those and some areas people are doing some work. In the Pune area, there is some work going on with the help of some NGO along this line as well. So with this note, we'll try to close this particular video, and then I'll see you again in the next video. Thank you.